Hello and welcome to Piwik PRO video series. Today we'll discover how we can enhance analytics insights using embedded report features. So, what we're gonna learn? We'll uncover what are the built-in report features. We'll also use them to dive deeper into data exploration and how to share data with others. In this video, we're gonna use Entry Pages report, which is a report that can be located obviously in Analytics, but then under Reports tab, which is where you can find all built-in reports. If we scroll down all the way to the section that is called Behavior section, and then under Pages, that's the third tab. Entry Pages report uses session entry URL dimension as a primary dimension for the entire report, and this report is a landing page report. We're going to talk about this report in just a moment, but this type of report is called Explore report. It's got a line chart at the top and a table at the bottom. We'll expand on that in just a moment, but just to let you know, once you know how to use the Explore report on the example of Entry Pages report, you'll be well equipped to use any Explore report, which are most of the reports under section reports. Most of them are Explore report types. Moreover, you can create Explore report under custom reports. So that's a very popular and very useful report. So it's really good to know how to use it. I'm going to close this sidebar so we use up the entire space of that report and we can see all different metrics on the screen. Before we dive deeper into the report's features, let's explain this report in more details. So, Entry Page report is a landing page report, means that it shows the performance of landing pages. Now, in Piwik PRO, the dimension that shows the values of landing pages is being called session entry URL. So, those are the URLs of the landing pages. The corresponding metric for session entry URL is entries. What is entries? Entries is the number of times, like 6,482 for this particular URL. That's the number of times visitors entered the website via this particular URL. If you look at this number, that will be for this URL, and so on. Bounce rate, which is the second metric. Bounce rate is a metric that can tell us the percentage of sessions in which visitors bounced, i.e. entered the website through any given URL, session entry URL, without going to any subsequent page. So they entered the website and they left without going to any other page URL. Then we have page views and unique page views for context. Average time on page, which should be self-explanatory, but it refers to the average time spent on any given landing page. Goal conversions. So this is the number of conversions for when visitor entered the website via any given landing page and converted a goal in that particular session. Goal conversion rate, which is the ratio of sessions with the completed goal to all sessions when the visitors entered via any given landing page, expressed in percentages. And then sum of goal revenue, which is the sum of revenue for when the visitor entered via any given landing page. Now bear in mind, I'm going to be using demo website and it has some mock-up data which may not always represent the real use cases, but it's good enough for the purpose of this video. The first feature that I would like to introduce you to is so-called additional dimension or secondary dimension, which allows us to add another dimension into our report. In order to add that dimension, you need to click on this plus button, and in here you can select dimensions from the list or use the search to find the dimension that you're looking for. So I could add anything that I can find on the list, but that would mostly depend on what kind of analysis I want to do. So I could add returning visitors, and then each and every landing page would be broken down into returning and new visitors, and then corresponding metrics for those returning and new visitors. But I want to do something more, let's say, advanced, and I'm going to use a dimension called source medium, which is breaking down the landing pages into different source medium from which visitor arrived on our website when they landed on that particular page. So in here, I've got banner cost per click. Here I've got newsletter email and video cost per view. All those three are for one and the same landing page. Now this report is being sorted by the number of entries. I know that because they are blue. The header of the metric is blue. So it basically sorts the values based on the numbers of entries from top to the lowest. I could click on session entry URL and sort it by the session entry URL. If I were to click it again, it shows me the reverse order of session entry URLs, meaning we're starting from the domain, and if we scroll down, we're seeing the sort of alphabetically growing values of the landing pages. And in here, I can see my homepage. So that's the homepage, and we can see all different source medium for homepage and amount of traffic that each particular source medium value contributed to bringing visitors into our website. Now, what would be the use case for secondary dimension? Because one could argue that I could click on a customize button, edit this report, and add source medium dimension and arrive at the same thing. Now, obviously that takes time, and yes, I could be far more flexible when I'm using customize button, because I can do all kind of editing, not only adding source medium, but that would be a different use case. If I have end result in mind, if I know what sort of report I'm looking for, I would use customize report. Moreover, I would customize my report if I really want to use this edited report in the future under custom reports. But if I want to do this one-off analysis on the fly, I would use secondary dimension. It's good for exploration because you can do it quickly. You can apply a secondary dimension, change it quickly, and then perhaps change it to returning visitors, so I can see breakdown of returning and new visitors. Or perhaps can quickly change it to campaign name and check it against campaign name. So depending on what I'm looking for, I can quickly change it in here. Moreover, it saves me time for that kind of quick explorations, and also with the viewer permissions, which is permission that won't let you edit reports, this button is off the table, and I can only rely on the secondary dimension. So anything that we're going to be talking about today, like secondary dimension and some other features, are available for when you have viewer permissions. So it's available to every end user of Piwik PRO platform. Next to features are filters. There are two types of filters that are built into this report. The filter that is here and quick filters. I'm going to come back to quick filters in just a moment. First, let's focus on this one. What is specific about the built-in filters, so that is true not only for this filter but this filter, is that we can use to filter data, but we can filter only by dimension and metrics that are available in this report. So that's a bit of a downside, but for exploration, investigation, that should be more than enough. We can always use segments if we need some advanced filtering, or we can always customize report if we need some advanced filtering, but that's something for another session. As for this particular filter, again, let's start with the session entry URL. So how do I filter my data? So if I were to filter data to look for value such as loan, and so any loan related page, I could hit search and it returns loan pages, related pages in my result. If I were to enter loan like that, so in capital, it doesn't matter. This filter is case insensitive, so it doesn't matter what I use, capital or lowercase values for my loan term. It will return loan related pages anyway. There is a downside to this particular filter, because if I were to enter values such as loan, so let's copy and paste it here and hit search, it will return any loan related pages again. If I were to enter S, that would exclude this value, but it would not exclude this value because it still matches the value that I've entered here. It still matches the value up until this point. So dash estimation is added on top of that. So That's the downside of this filter. We cannot be very specific in it. That is something that can be mitigated by quick filters. Again, we're going to get back to the quick filters in just a moment. Now let's try filter by, let's cancel that, and let's try filter by, let's say, bounce rate. So let's say my average bounce rate is 29.95. So I want to see anything above that. So let's say 30% is the minimum value. If I were to click on search, now it included all the values for a bounce rate that are higher than 30%. I could do reverse. So let's say I want to see the maximum value, that is, let's say 31. So that would exclude this value, this value, this value, 50 and 100%. And now we can see that it is working. So it did the filtering. So that's this filter. Let's move on to the quick filters. To use quick filters, you need to click on quick filters. And in here, we can apply logic. The difference between regular filters and quick filters is that in here, I can apply more than one condition. That's one thing, joined by an logical operator. But you can also add some logic here. So is not, contains, is if I want to include particular landing page in my report, is not if I want to exclude particular landing page for my report, contains. So that's a similar logic that we could use with regular filter. Does not contain, that means if I want to exclude particular pages, so any page related to loans, if I were to enter loans and use does not contain, it would exclude loan related pages. Starts with, ends with, contains, regular expressions. So regular expression gives us another level of flexibility if you know how to use regular expressions. But let's use some examples. So I'm going to use is, and I'm going to show you that I can easily isolate particular page. So I'm going to copy and paste this in here, and I'm going to hit apply. And this isolated me one specific landing page. Now, what would be the use case? Now, on that very list, you might have hundreds of different URLs on your website. So browsing through this, the list of different URLs might be quite time consuming. You might copy and paste it from the website and paste it in here to isolate that particular URL on your report. So that would be the use case for is. Now, if I were to, let's clear filters. If I were to use two pages, let's say, let's use loans estimation and another one, which is loans. Both URLs exist on my list here, so estimation and loans. If I were to use it like that, using AND logical operator, that would not work. And the reason for that is because there's only one landing page for a specific visit, for a specific session. There's no such a thing as a session with two landing pages. So this logic joined by AND could never work. We would need to use OR instead, but OR is not available in quick filters. If you want to use OR logical operator, you would need to use segments or customize our report. But that does not mean that we cannot use AND logical operator. We could use it, for example, for adding, let's include block pages. So I'm going to use contains. I'm going to include block pages. But this time I'm going to use bounce rate, and the bounce rate is, let's say, greater than 29%. So that leaves us with only two block pages, and that's how sort of two conditions could be applied. Moreover, I could apply now, let's say, a page related to stock. So I could investigate further and use this as yet another, or use filtering by any sort of metric. So I can play with different types of filters in quick filters and in here if I want to, and that depends on our use case and depending what we really want to achieve. Now let's combine the power of all three different features that we introduced today, which is filters, quick filters, and secondary dimension. Now, remember that I said that you can use for filtering purposes only the dimension and metrics that are available in that any given report. So if I were to filter by other dimension, that session entry URL, I could not do this. However, with the use of secondary dimension, I can apply it and then it will be available in filter and quick filters. So let's add, say, source medium. Now, I could use source medium or any other dimension that is available in secondary dimensions. And that's quite a lot, pretty much most of the dimensions that are available in Piwik Pro. So now I've included source medium. So now it breaks down the data by landing pages and source medium. But now I can use it to filter it further. So let's use quick filters to include traffic from direct entry. So first I need to choose source medium contains direct, and that should be enough. Let's hit apply. And now we have all the pages for which we've had visitors enter via direct entry. So they didn't use any channels. They went straight to our website, perhaps via bookmark or by entering the URL into the browser. Now, let's say I want to only see the values for which we've had at least 5 conversions. So let's 5. So now that list is smaller, but now let's go even further. So here I have all goals, and let's say I'm interested in a particular goal, consumer loan, apply now goal. Right, and now it filters only data for direct entry for conversions more than 5 in the one report. So you can see how we can combine secondary dimensions, filters, and quick filters, and I could go even farther, but the more filters I apply, the less values I'm going to see in this demo data. But in your case, you could apply more than one condition in here and in here, and you can also filter by different types of secondary dimensions. The context depends on what you're looking for and what you really want to achieve with your use case. Another feature that we're going to look into is related to line chart. Before we jump into that feature, let's explain line chart a little. So first of all, line chart shows us data across time. You can see dates here, and those dates are basically the dates that of the date range that we've selected in here. So from very first of January of 2022 until December 31st of the same year. And in here we have data, but what data do we have here? We can see color coding, entries, and goal conversions. So blue entries and sort of red goal conversions. We can change those metrics. We can unselect entries or unselect goal conversions, or add even more metrics onto our line chart. But let's keep things simple and keep entries on our line chart. Now, what dictates what metrics are available here? Basically, any metric that is available within this particular report can be plotted on our line chart. Right now I'm looking the density of data, the grouping into days. So we can see values for each and every day if I hover across the entire year. I could change it in here and group it by an hour, but that would be suited for a single day and not for week or day or week or month or quarter. And that would be suited for if we were to select single day in our day range. But in our case, because we're looking at the entire year, we could group it by a month, which makes much more sense than grouping it by a day. But nonetheless, day could be useful for when we look at the date range between, a few days to up to perhaps few months. Now we're looking at entries grouped by a month. So we can see that the traffic is rather steady. Now, moving on to the feature that I would like to show you is that this feature allows us to select any 5 values. We can see how many we selected here. So I've selected 2 just to keep things simple, but you can select up to 5. In our case, session entry URLs. But if we were to use any other report, let's say showing the source medium or some other values like the device type, we could select 2 or 3 values and plot the series for selected metric across time. So if I were to hit plot selected rows, now I see data for those 2 landing pages, and we can see the number of entries. We can see that the the number of entries is rather static for each particular landing page, and it's represents similar level across time. But what if we were to change metric into say goal conversions? Now we can see that there's some sort of fluctuations for this second landing page, loans estimations. But now let's change goal conversions from regular from all goals to particular consumer loan goals. Now we can see that on the month of July, for some reason, the second landing page had a much better performance, and we can spot it and see it quite vividly on our line chart. This could give us some clues for further investigation, perhaps why there was a dip in performance of our homepage, or the other way around, what was there increase in performance for our red landing page, i.e. loans estimation page. So that's how we can play with this feature using the Explore report. Another feature of the Explore report helps us drill down data that we see, and this is also what sets apart Explore report and flat table report. Flat table, basically we see a table and all we can see, that's all there is. Whereas Explore report, we can dive deeper into data that we see. What do I mean by that? It means that the values of the dimension, in our case session entry URL, can be clicked on and explored further. It means that in here we have nested dimension, and we can see the structure of what are those layers where we can drill down to. So the very first top layer is session entry URL. So that's the layer that we are currently on. And if we were to click on any of these values, we wouldn't get to the website, which you might think that what would happen, but we're going to get into the session second URL, which is the second URL to which visitor went to when they arrived on any particular landing page. And then we could obviously go further and see channels, device type, and device model. But let's take a closer look. So see here, we have 6,482 entries for this particular landing page. So let's take this one as an example. And now we can see that this number was broken down into smaller parts, and we see a breakdown for second dimension, which is session second URL. So what it means, when a visitor arrived on via this landing page, 2,111 of these entries via this landing page, a visitor session second URL was a home page. So somebody refreshed the page. A lot of the visitors actually refreshed the page. And then here we see no data, which means that the visitor did not go any farther. That was the only page they went to. That's why we also see 100% bounce rate, because a lot of those visitors left the website. Then we can see a blog. So that's the 464 out of 6,482 entries via this landing page. And that goes similar for other landing pages. Now, if I were to click on that, I would be able to see channel. If I click any further, I would see device type and then device model. Now, this structure in this particular report, which is session entry URL report, entry pages report, is fixed. However, we could potentially create custom reports, and we could decide what is this structure that we see here. So we could start with the session entry URL and then go into source medium, and then perhaps device type or campaign name, whatever the structure that we can think of, and whatever makes sense for our current data analysis. Another bunch of features are related to data sharing, mostly to data sharing, not only, and less to data analysis. What I'm talking about here is all of these different buttons that we could click on, and they will do something for us. So let's explore what they're gonna do for us. So first one, customize. If I were to click on it, I would enter edit mode, and I'll be able to edit this report, meaning I could add or remove or replace or change some metrics that are available in this report, perhaps dimension, or reshuffle or change the structure of our nested dimensions. And then once I save it, it will be saved under custom reports. So that may save us some time for when we want to create a report and we don't want to create it from scratch under custom reports. Next button is a share button. So if I click on that, I have here access to sharing link. I can share the link for all users or publicly. Now, how's this sharing link different from the link that I would copy otherwise from the browser, let's say? Well, this sharing link remembers all the settings that I've applied into this report. So let's make a little test. I'm going to add some quick filters and a segment. So I'm going to add one quick filter, loan. So we can see it filters data. Now let's apply a segment. So device type is a smartphone. And now let's click on a share link and I'm going to copy it to clipboard. So it was copied. Let's close it. And now I'm going to refresh that page just to show you what would happen if I was to copy and go to this URL directly. As you can see, I went back to the basic form of that very report, so I don't have any filters applied on, not a segment nor a quick filter. Now, what happens if I'm gonna paste in the copied link? Now you can see that the segment and a quick filter was applied on, and it works exactly as it should. Just to let you know, it will also remember my date range. Now, in my case, I didn't change the date range, so it didn't update it because it didn't need to. But if I were to change it to, let's say, week of 2022 and apply it, and now if I were to copy and paste it again, we're coming back to the same date range, January and December. So that's the sharing button. Next, there's an export button. So if I'm going to click on that, I can export chart or table data. So let's take an example of table data. I'll be able to export the report in CSV, XML, JSON, and JSON-KV format after hitting the export button. So that will be downloaded into my computer. Then next three dots, I have few options. Save as a PDF, so entire report could be saved to my computer in a PDF format. I could create a PDF or CSV schedule report. So if I'm going to click on that, I would follow some settings where I could set this particular report would be sent to my email box. And my email box or someone else's email box, I can decide on that. I could also decide on any sort of segments that I would apply to that report, how frequently I want to receive that report, and a bunch of other settings, again, in PDF or CSV format. Then we have notes. Notes are notes that we can add to particular dates. If I'm going to click on that, I can select any particular day and add a short note up to 150 characters that may sort of tell us in the future what happened on a particular day. So let's say we've had a campaign in January, like we could add a note that there was a campaign in January, and January spike in traffic might not be something seasonal, but because we run some sort of campaign. If in May our website was down for 2 days or a few hours, we could add a note that a dip in traffic may have been caused by the fact that our website was down, and few years or a few months from now we would know why that dip happened, and those were notes. Those notes would be applied into each and every line chart, not only in this report but any report. So let's in here I can actually see that dot, so let's change it to monthly data grouping. Now we can see that dot. If I'm gonna click on that very dot, I can see that note in here. Now we can also click on notes and see them in here, not necessarily on this line chart. And next we've got here 3 dots that are for a line chart only. I can save this line chart in PNG, JPG, and PDF format, which might be very useful if we don't want to take a screenshot, which might be a bit of offline. And if we're gonna click on PNG, JPG, and PDF, we save it in a nice, neat form. view API call definition. So if I were to click on that, that's probably something for advanced exporting, but we can export data via API call. And in here, we can sort of copy the endpoint and query. So especially the query might be quite useful rather than creating all these different details, sort of typing them in. We can basically copy it from here. And that may save us some time. So we can copy it to clipboard, both of those, and export again data via API. Something for advanced users, but it's good to remember that. Here I can hide nodes, so now I can see nodes, but if I click on that, it disappears from the line chart. Because I have only one node, that it's not a big deal, but we might be having a lot of nodes on our line chart, so we can decide whether we want to see them or not. So let's click show nodes back again, and then here I've got this another 3 dots, which are related to the table data. So I can, again, instead of doing the screenshot, I can click on PNG, JPG, and PDF to take a screenshot sort of this table data. And finally, again, I have API call definitions, which are now referring to the table data. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel. Check the description below to find some useful links like free Piwik PRO sign-up page, community forum page, and links to related videos. Until next time.